Hello, it's me here in a different location than I was before. Just to say a very quick apology. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm very frustrated because the podcast we've done is really punchy and powerful, and yet my audio isn't where it needs to be. So whether you're watching this on YouTube, you're listening, I've tried my best. It's not where I would want it to be. And so I hope you can forgive for this week. It is a steep learning curve. Maybe I'm being overly harsh on myself. Probably not. I don't know. You'll make your own mind up. But yes, there's lots of good stuff from Rich. There's lots of good stuff from Andrew Pollard, who makes an appearance. I just hope you find a way to keep listening, keep watching, because next week I can assure you that it won't be like this again. So apologies. The podcast is good, I promise you. Just my audio might grate on you a little bit more than usual.
Hello, welcome to Rob, Ryan, Red, the Wrexham podcast brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. On today's podcast, we react to Wrexham's latest summer signing, bring you an exclusive statement on the season ticket fiasco, and we will celebrate 4 years of Parky and Parkin by reflecting on every player they have signed for the club. All that and more on today's show.
Rob, Ryan, Red.
Now, Nath, you seem to have swapped Slovakia with a prison cell. Did you get locked up when you were there, or what happened?
I was a bit of a rascal by the end, but I can safely say I didn't get locked up in Slovakia. I'm in South London, so from Slovakia to South London for Wimbledon. For anyone who's got me on social media, so I'm just desperate to get home. Is that really sort of first world problem of me? I don't know.
It is. You'll start complaining that Wrexham have only signed 2 players next. Will you be coming home soon, or are you going to have a little detour on the way?
No, I'm going from South London, Wimbledon, to Sydney, Australia, and then Melbourne, Australia. So if you are over there and you fancy saying hello, keep me company. Rich has sent me off on my own because he doesn't want me to come back to Manchester quite yet. So I'm there packing solo for those games. I will be at the Melbourne Victory game. I will be at the Sydney FC game, Marvel Stadium, and the Allianz Stadium. So it'll be a bit of a jaunt. I will be doing lots of videos over there. So if you want to, if anyone remembers those kind of North Carolina vlogs where I got taken through the back door of a pizzeria in North Carolina, that was very shifty, but turned out all right. And we watched Chelsea face Wrexham and everything. So if you want to get in any of those videos, or you think there's a good story for me to tell, I know there's a specific pub in Sydney that everyone keeps telling me to go to that's very sort of Wrexham themed. Let us know in the comments or just tweet us directly.
Yeah, if you want to see more videos of Nathan getting taken through the back door, I hope you cut out when you said that. And yeah, feel free to stick with us here on Rob Ryan Red. Of course, thank you very much to all of you watching on YouTube as well. If you're new around here, please do leave a like and subscribe, and yeah, keep tuned for Nath's trip to Australia. When was the last time you were back home in your own flat, Nath? Just out of curiosity.
I left my flat. I locked the door on June the 9th. It is now July the 2nd. I will be returning to my flat on the evening of July the 17th.
Did you throw like the loaves of bread away and stuff, or is it going to be like this
It,
absolute cesspit of food?
no, I did throw all the food away. What I won't be able to salvage is the big plant in my living room. That, as much as I tried to give it water before, I didn't quite expect to be gone for well over a month. So there we go.
Well, we can keep that chronicle coming as well. Maybe when you get back to Manchester as well, you have to post a picture of that plant and we can see what state it's in. I don't think it will be salvageable. Let's go on to transfers then. Wrexham have completed their second signing of the summer window. Of course, Wrexham fly to Australia this weekend. Wouldn't be a surprise if by even maybe the time you're listening to this podcast, they might be 3 or 4 through the door. Danny Ward, back in a Wrexham shirt where it all began. He played one solitary match for us against Airbus. He said he doesn't count that as sort of making his Wrexham debut. He wants to play a competitive game in his second spell at the club. Nath, I think we're in the same boat on this one, that when we first heard the rumours and we first got the tip off, of course, you tweeted about his medical earlier in the week. I was a little bit underwhelmed because I thought, I love Arthur Okonkwo. He's our first choice. Callum Burton, I was impressed with last season. Do we really need Danny Ward? I wasn't that bothered. And then I actually saw Danny Ward in a Wrexham kit. I boiled it down, took my sort of fandom out of it in terms of how much I love Arthur Okonkwo. And I was like, this is a bloody good signing. Danny Ward is our backup goalkeeper, never mind our first choice.
I think I came on, didn't I, after the Ryan Hardy signing and said that much of my opinion on Ryan Hardy was based on that one game against Sheffield United where I watched him live. So I'd been able to make my own mind up. He was bottom of the league against top of the league, barely had a kick, wasn't really impressed with any facet of his game. Very, very unfair to judge Ryan Hardy based off one performance watching live. That's not a fair reflection. Feel like I was basing my opinion on Danny Ward on the opinions of others. So friends of mine who follow Leicester, or that tweet I put out. Normally, if I put out any Wrexham transfer news, it gets a little bit of traction, but probably not loads. This was sort of 150, 200,000 impressions, loads of people quoting that and saying that, Danny Ward is the worst player I've ever seen. Like he is, it's better to have nobody stood in goal than Danny Ward in goal. And all these, crazy opinions that are just trying to sort of rage bait people online. And don't get me wrong, I have friends of mine who support Leicester that absolutely despise Danny Ward with every fibre in their being. But when I thought more about it, and I gained some intel that he is coming in as a backup, and firmly as that there is a clear hierarchy that Arthur Okonkwo is and will remain the number one. I thought, okay, Arthur is getting mentored by a Premier League goalkeeper, someone who has been at the very top of the game internationally and at club level, has been on a lot of money, and I know he gets a lot of stick for that, but arguably has he now made his money? He's come to Wrexham, come back home, he's just got married. And the more I think about it, his experience can only be valuable to Arthur Okonkwo. And we want to see him grow into the goalkeeper many of us believe he can be. So, look, there's a lot of reticence in some quarters. People are very happy in others. But, should we be losing our minds over a backup goalkeeper? I don't know. Probably not.
No, and again, I think what you touched upon there is the worst case is he comes in as a mentor to Arthur Okonkwo. He doesn't really even play. And again, we've said this in the past, Nath, that there's such a gulf between the Premier League and the Championship anyway. And just because we live in this sort of media bubble where if someone doesn't perform at a Premier League club, you automatically think they're the worst footballer in the world and they just can't do anything. And then you see them in a different sort of environment, and they're amazing. There's so many players who, where it doesn't work out for them at one club, they go to another and they flourish. And I think a key part for Danny Ward is he's had such scrutiny on him for the last 4 or 5 years. There's been high-profile errors. You think of getting sent off against Iran in the World Cup for Wales. You think of, some of the blunders he's had playing for Leicester City. But that's also on such a global stage where there are hundreds of millions of people scrutinising your every move. And I know Wrexham are a very high-profile football club, but he'll go under the radar a little bit in North Wales in terms of what he's doing on a week-by-week basis. He can get his confidence back up and hopefully he can have a new sort of zest for the game and really remember why he, as we saw in the last episode of Welcome to Wrexham, remember why he loved football in the first place. Play like that 10-year-old again, the kid who used to come to watch Wrexham, as a child. He can get that again. And I think it's a great bit of business. I really do. We did need another goalkeeper this summer. We've managed to get a high caliber one. And I don't think there's a Championship team that wouldn't want Danny Ward as their number 2. I really don't. I know like I said, we've got the perception of him not being this superstar in the Premier League, but boil it down. Look at his CV. If that guy's your number 2, he's had 2 Championship promotions as well. You've got to remember, one with Huddersfield, one with Leicester. This is someone who has bags and bags of experience, and that is going to be vital for Wrexham next season.
2 things. How long does it take a player who's had years of kind of confidence shattering, neglect in a way, right? Where all that player has known is negativity. And off the pitch, I get, there's been a lot of work done, I'm sure, by his partner and his family and his friends. And Mark Crichton, ex-Wrexham defender, we know is a very good friend of Danny Ward. Danny Ward has been to watch Wrexham away from home, big Wrexham fan. So in one aspect, those that are dunking on Danny Ward And yeah, don't get me wrong, I was a little bit underwhelmed when the signing was made. I'm not going to shy away from that. It is a Wrexham fan coming back home to play for Wrexham, and probably could have found a more lucrative offer elsewhere, even with all this negativity around him. But my question would be, what does it mean for Callum Burton, and what does it mean for Luke McNicholas? Because typically a third choice is not someone that you think would be a legitimate starter at maybe League One level, right? So I think we all saw Callum Burton as a perfectly fine starter, and it's making me wonder now whether Callum Burton heads for pastures new. I don't know.
Yeah, I still think this is like one of those wacky hipster takes that journalists love. But I still think there's an argument in this alternative universe that last season when Okonkwo got injured, Burton was injured at the same time. That's when Mark Howard played. I think there was an argument that, if Burton hadn't been injured, he could have actually taken the number one spot and potentially been the keeper who got us over the line. I think he was that good. Every time I saw him, there was nuance to it because he often played in cup competitions. But I remember going to Sheffield United away early last season in the Carabao Cup and we lose 4-2. But Burton had a really good game. And there was another game maybe in the Papa John's or something. I can't quite remember, where I was just really impressed with what I saw. So I think he's got the right now to go push for football, and he is third choice. That's all. That is just bottom line now. You can't make an argument any other way. Okonkwo's on number one. Ward has to go in as number two. So I think the argument is probably you get rid of Burton, let him go be a number one somewhere, because I think he can still do that at League One level. He could even be a backup, maybe at Championship level, and then maybe retain McNicholas as that third choice and keep him in house. So it's a really difficult one, isn't it, Nath? But I think for Burton, he'll go down as one of those what ifs. It's just not quite worked out. He impressed me in what I saw, but there was that sliding doors moment last season where Mark Howard got the chance and he didn't. And yeah, maybe that will be his Wrexham legacy. And when it gets later in the podcast, we'll see where he ranks in the all-time Wrexham signings under Parky as well.
I was thinking about this. Well, firstly, yeah, I think Burton performed admirably when he was on the pitch. I think he didn't let the side or himself down at any point. What I was going to say, though, because we talk about perception, right? And I think the overall perception was that Wrexham fans are not super happy with the Danny Ward signing. Maybe that's just the minority, if it is that online, right? But Birmingham went and signed James Beadle, who will be going in as their number one, right? The England under-21 goalkeeper, who was in the under-21 team of the tournament. I like him a lot in terms of the personality, covering him day by day. But he is far from the finished product, and ended up getting dropped for the last 8 games of the season by Sheffield Wednesday, and they were by the end very negative on him. Again, a young goalkeeper deserves far more slack than he's getting. But if Wrexham had gone and signed a player like James Beadle to come in and be number one, for example, and Arthur would have dropped out, or I'm playing sort of silly bugger and hypotheticals here, but there was kind of, James Beadle, that's an exciting signing, whereas Danny Ward, who's played at a much more senior level, has dropped off, no doubt, but has the chance and has the desire, I would imagine, to climb the mountain again. That's a negative. So I also think, Rich, before I throw it back to you, I also think that what is the point in really sort of like hammering the signing before they kick a ball for the football club? I don't see anything good that can possibly come from sort of like really sort of slandering a signing that you actually haven't seen play for you yet.
No, and that's just the age we live in, though, Nate. You've got to have what I hate, and I think this I don't want to get too political and stuff on here, and this isn't just about football. I feel like in this modern world of maybe like social media hot takes, you almost have to be you either have to be hard. This sounds like your chap before getting taken through the back door. You either got to have like a hard opinion one way or the other. Do you know what I mean? You've either got to be Messi or Ronaldo, Blur or Oasis. I like both. I like Danny Ward. I like Okonkwo. On Danny Ward, yeah, he could be a good signing. He's not a bad signing. Yeah, you can have the opinion can be that you just don't really care. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's how I feel about this Danny Ward. Not that I don't care, but he's not the best signing we'll make this summer, but he's also not a bad signing at all. It's a very good position to be in. And yeah, I think it's just a reflection of being a modern fan of anything, Nath. Do you know what I mean? That you've got to be really tribal and be in one camp. Like, you can't like two things that are in the same sort of realm. That's it. That's not allowed in the modern world. You've got to love one and hate the other, and it's not dislike. You've got to hate it. So yeah, I think most rational Wrexham fans will be saying, "Look, it doesn't really matter. It's not my money. It's good to see that he's been brought back to the club, and I think he's a very safe second pair of hands for us to have."
Rob, Ryan, Red.
Rich, talking of your money and the money of other people, I think actually the big talking point of the week, and we are just two podcasters, but I would like to think that whenever a sort of serious topic has come up, we've done our best to shed light on those things. And on occasion, maybe they've reverted back, maybe they've changed the rules, maybe they've had a second thought. The club, right? That's the whole point. We want to hold the club to account. Like anyone who can vocalize their opinions on the club should. And I say that long-winded sort of spiel beforehand to say that the row over season tickets for those who die, who pass on, are actually not allowed to be passed on to family members. I guess you can provide us a succinct sort of explanation of what's gone on this week, and then we'll get into a special chat that we've done.
Yeah, so obviously there was this post on social media, which again you'll hear about in this conversation. A fan passed away during the season just gone. The family would like to keep that season ticket within the family, reassign it to someone else, and the club have said, look, they are strictly non-transferable. We try and make special circumstances where we can in terms of moving people to be closer together, but once that sort of season ticket has the person who it's registered to is no longer with us, it goes back into the pot with other match tickets. And of course, this is divided opinion. Some people will say, look, this is just what a lot of clubs do. Others will say, well, that doesn't justify it either. You know, you might be opening an extra ticket to fans who don't have season tickets, but you're also not rewarding the loyalty of someone who's been supporting you for a number of years. So we got, speaking of people returning to Wrexham, we got Andrew Pollard back on the podcast. He had a similar experience himself and was able to shed some light on that. And we've also got an exclusive statement as well from the club on the matter. Hopefully this is as balanced as we can be, but as you'll tell as the conversation goes on, our own opinions do kind of come through quite strongly. So you might have seen this week that there's been another season ticket discussion going on behind the scene, maybe a season ticket shambles. There's been two sides to the argument. From my point of view, this stemmed from seeing a post on social media in which a fan had posted on Wrexham fans chat saying, I was wondering if anyone else has experienced this situation, trying to change the name on a relative's season ticket after they passed away midway through last season. In our case, this was a long-time and devoted supporter who had always expressed a wish for their season ticket to be passed on to one of their children, a gesture of legacy and continuity. Unfortunately, we've been informed by the club that this is no longer possible under any circumstances due to a new rule introduced this season. It's deeply disappointing, especially given how much season tickets meant to our loved ones and how important it was for them that it stayed in the family. So, a fan has passed away. They would like the season ticket to stay within their family, and the club have said it's non-transferable and it will then be released on general sale next season. There's obviously two sides to this story. We reached out to the club before recording the podcast. We wanted to make sure that they could get their point across, argue why they had done it, and this is what a Wrexham spokesperson told Rob Ryan Red this week. They said, we are always saddened to hear of the loss of Wrexham fans, especially long-standing season ticket holders who in some cases have been part of the fabric of the football club for many years. We fully understand that in some cases there is a desire to pass the season ticket on to family members when a supporter passes away. However, we have set a ticket policy that we believe is the fairest for all of our supporters. Due to the incredibly high ticket demand and the large number of season ticket holders we have been unable to sell new season tickets for 3 years. Furthermore, and especially so this season with the COP development, the demand for matchday tickets far outstrips the number available. For this reason, We do not allow the transfer of tickets in any circumstance. This helps to prevent a closed shop and ensures as many people as possible have as fair a chance as we can to attend matches at the Stock Carras. We do, of course, take personal circumstances into consideration, and we do allow seat moves where one member of a group has sadly passed away or taken the decision to no longer attend, to ensure family and friend groups can bunch together, meaning they do not become split up. We're joined by Andrew Pollard, who is back on Rob Ryan Red after his brief hiatus. Andrew, you'll discuss your own sort of personal reference to this story shortly. What do you make of that? Do you understand where the club are coming from? It must be said this is a policy that a lot of professional football clubs have in place, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, I don't really see. I try to do the whole devil's advocate thing and look at the reasons why the club would do this. And I get that, you don't want it to be a closed shop, so you don't want to stop new fans from coming. It is a case for somebody else to come to a Wrexham game who maybe couldn't have gone previously. But that just, for me, all pales into the background when you look at the other side of that argument. And especially when I know that other clubs do have similar policies in place. But the fact that the word in there of the email as well is that this is a new policy we've set. So it's like, we've set this ourselves. Nobody's forced this on us. It's not some, I don't know, government decision. It's not old Charlie boy at the top of the tree making the decision. We as a football club have decided that this is how we want to move forward. It's a new rule that we've created because we've chosen to create it. We did not need to put this in place. And I just think you do have other clubs, bigger clubs than Wrexham, like Arsenal, for example, who are very much open to the concept of if somebody unfortunately passes away, that the family can keep hold of that season ticket. All it is a case of providing a proof of death, proof of the relationship there. And so you've got bigger clubs at Wrexham that are capable of doing this, bigger clubs that still sell out their stadiums. So I don't know why we've made this such an issue and why now. I mean, obviously before the takeover, this wasn't an issue because, quite frankly, we were getting 3,000, 4,000, maybe 5,000 fans a week. So there were still plenty of seats. So it is a new situation for us in the last, say, 4 years. So I fully understand that the club, the officials are in a relatively new water for them, especially with not having the COP this coming season. But I just think the way it's been handled and the decision to put this into place is just, I don't know, the pros far outweigh the cons for me.
Yeah, I would, again, personal opinion here, I think that you should be allowed to transfer it to a family member because, as you said there, these are rules we've made. Why can't you change those rules? Why did you have to adopt those rules in the first place? I understand that there is a huge demand for tickets for people to watch Wrexham matches, but that doesn't justify this as a decision to be made, in my opinion. I do get what the club is saying. This is policy. They are, strictly non-transferable. And from the club's point of view, they might say, look, it's lose-lose. You're either annoying a family who believe that their loyalty is not being rewarded, or you're maybe annoying supporters who are already struggling to get to matches anyway by reducing that ticket. Although I would argue, well, that ticket wasn't available for however long that person's had the season ticket anyway. So it's not as if it's a new ticket that was available that is now being taken away from those supporters. That was kind of already closed off under the terms of the season ticket. And from the club's point of view, surely it shouldn't make too much of a difference season by season if this amount of season tickets stay the same. And yeah, I think from my personal opinion as well, Andrew, I mean, I know you said you've got kind of personal experience of this situation yourself. I go to the games with my mum, and without being too morbid, there will probably come a time when, unfortunately, that is no longer going to be the case. And to think that I could then be in this situation myself at some point, I'm very fortunate to have a season ticket and to be able to go to every home game with a family member at the moment in time. And when it comes to the point when I've got my own family, to then maybe lose that and I'd suddenly be going alone and those are the rules, really leaves a sour taste in the mouth. And I know you said that you've maybe had an experience as well, similar.
Yeah, we unfortunately lost one of our group midway through the season, and he came with his son-in-law and granddaughter, and so you've got 3 generations there. We've my friend and his wife have tried to get the season ticket moved into, kept in the family, moved to basically to his daughter. The response they've got, because they have sent this over and they said it's okay to share, but the response they got from the club was just very corporate, very not community club spirited, where let's just pick some choice words here. Due to the increased demand in season tickets, we've had to implement a strict same person, same seat policy to ensure a fair distribution of all our seating. Same person, same seat, that wording just seems, that doesn't make sense to me. We completely understand that this is likely not the news you were hoping for, but hopefully you can appreciate the need to ensure proper distribution of our incredibly limited ticket supply. And it's a very soulless reply, I think, a very soulless response, a bit like the statement the club have given to yourself there, Rich, and it's just a bit disappointing. I think there is an argument to be made there if there was, a waiting list there of season tickets. If there was a loyalty scheme in place, there was people who've accumulated credits where, you're next in line for a season ticket because you've been to X amount of away games or X amount of home games. If that was in place, then fair enough. But the fact that there is no benefit to the club, apart from the glaringly obvious one of you can charge more for an individual match day ticket rather than you can for a season ticket. I believe it's where we are. I think it's £24 in the Mold Road stand per ticket. So all the club benefits from is that. That is the only benefit I can see from the football club, and it's not what you want to look at the football club, this community football club, and see that when you weigh up the pros and the cons, that is all they're getting from this is extra money, a couple of quid extra per game. And then there is the option, because our pal who sadly lost was 8 years of age, so it was a concessions ticket. So I saw some people on social media saying just renew your ticket and use it. But then to do that, you'd have to upgrade that to a normal ticket, which is you still have to pay the full price on top of that. So it's just a ridiculous situation to me on that. And I know obviously we're not the only people in that situation. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, who lose people throughout the season. And like you said yourself, it's something that could happen to a lot of us over the years, unfortunately, where we could be in the same sort of situation. And it's such an unavoidable situation. That's the frustrating bit on it. The fact that it's a rule that we put in place, and then we're kind of just falling back on, oh, well, it's the rule now. So it's a fluid situation. It's not set in stone. You can change things. And also it's a rule where there's been one or two of these over the last couple of years where you see these rules made, or decisions made, not necessarily in rules, but decisions made on kind of the ground level at the football club from, management officials, whatever they're, and the decisions that you look at our owners and you're thinking there is no way Rob or Ryan would be on board with such a decision like this. I cannot see, it kind of just goes so against their values and how they present themselves. But yet somebody at the football club has decided that, no, this is what we're going to have in place, and then we're going to say that we can't change it because it's almost like we don't have the power to change it. It's like, yes, you do. You made this decision. You can unmake it. You can change it. You can edit it. You can tweak it. It's, like I said, it's fluid. It's not concrete.
Again, like you said there'll be some people saying, look, this is one of your prices of success. You've become a more corporate football club. You've actually become a business rather than a football club now, which are two very different, distinct entities. I always think that a football club maybe acts in the best interest of its community all the time, whereas a business obviously has its own sort of prerogatives. And like you said, there's a financial benefit to Wrexham doing this, but it is minuscule. It wouldn't even register on the radar, given, it's be a couple of £100 a year per person that they'd get extra, which at the moment, that is a player's earning that in a single day comfortably now. So from that point of view, again, I strongly disagree. And I suppose, Andrew, the other two things I'll touch upon here are, one, maybe the club will say that, look, this is it now. They've got to make decisions that they've got to act like a more professional football club, which maybe sometimes we look at them as rose-tinted glasses, where everyone's trying their best in voluntary roles previously, and Wrexham have just become this behemoth now. They're acting like a ruthless big club because that's kind of what they want to be eventually. But you then go back to, like you said there, the Rob and Ryan sort of influence on all this, and it takes you back to that mission statement where they wanted Wrexham to always be a strong pillar of the community. We've seen in the docuseries once again just this emphasis of community and how important the people of Wrexham are. And you've got a whole episode, to sort of dedicate to Arthur Massey, one of these long-term supporters, and then your actions don't back it up. Do you know what I mean? And I guess it kind of devalues that entire ethos of the club, doesn't it, when these actions are happening?
I mean, that's strong words, but I think that's fair words. you're presenting one thing, particularly because we have the documentary that does such a great job of highlighting these stories of generations after generations after generations of fans going, and that family feel on a match day of sharing those moments, sharing those seasons, the highs, the lows, because there's been a lot of lows over the years. And then you see something like this decision that's been made, and you just think that just goes so against what we've seen and what we've said. We're saying one thing, and then the actual actions we're doing in this particular instance are just, it's polar opposite. And I just think it's not a great look for the football club. Do I think that they're going to change this? I mean, they have the power to change it. I don't think they will, because then it sets a precedent where they have to have that authority, because then any time there's a decision that's questioned, they've seen to show weakness and back down. But I just, yeah, it's a real shame. It's a real shame. It's like there's been taken no, I won't say no, but there's minimal. It's taken into the interest of fans in a very minimal way. I mean, this is, I saw a few comments on social media about this is where we need a proper engagement forum, a proper fan engagement forum in place and set up. I know that there are some in place, but it just feels like such a, I don't know, short-sighted approach. And like you said, a very clinical approach of a business. And we are a business, and I understand that. There are going to be things that we don't agree on, because it's all about cold, hard numbers. And if they can make a couple of extra quid from a seat per season, then unfortunately, I guess that's what they're going to do. It's just, it's a very sad state of affairs, Rich.
Yeah, and again, I think maybe to end this debate, you might disagree with myself and Andrew. I think we've made clear that we certainly aren't in favour of these rules, but the club have made them. They are implementing them. That is the kind of black and white at this moment in time. And I guess there's also that wider debate as well, Andrew, about season tickets in football anyway. I mean, it's no secret that clubs probably wouldn't like them. If you make a lot more money off a match day fan on a one-off than you do on recurring supporters. And yeah, loyalty in football isn't something that too many people have become accustomed to in recent years either. But hopefully this has maybe raised more awareness of the subject. Hopefully people feel passionate about it either way. Please do let us know which side of the fence you lie on. Are we being too harsh on the club? Are they just doing what's in their own best interest? We've got to respect that. Of course, when we voted for the takeover, we handed over that responsibility. We've accepted that. That was part of the deal. If you want a very successful football club, you've got to have a very successful business as well. And that is now what we've got. We've got both of those things. So let us know what you think of that. As always, please get in touch on robryanred@gmail.com and comment as well if you're watching on YouTube.
I see a podcast called Rob, Ryan, Red. It is with Nathan Salt and Rich Bird.
So, Nath, I think from that chat, it's clear that myself and Andy both agree that it's the wrong decision from the club, whether they've got their own reasoning for it or not. I'd also add to that, shout out to Spirit of 78 for putting it on socials, because I wouldn't have seen it otherwise. And I'd also say my last bit before I get your opinion is, what I don't like is that argument of, well, this club does it, or it's normal practice in the footballing world or the sporting world, when we also like to say that we're so different as a club. But for me, then acting like everyone else and using that as justification doesn't work. But what do you think, Nath? Do you think there is a fair argument that it gives an extra opportunity now for other supporters to get to matches? Or would you say, well, that ticket wasn't available last season anyway, what difference does that make?
So, because I've quite a strong opinion, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second then, because that's the role I don't want to play.
Isn't it?
That's what I don't want to play, and I have very, very strong opinions to the contrary. But if I was playing devil's advocate, they would argue that if everyone who has a season ticket, every person who has a season ticket, there's been no sales of season tickets for 3 years, right? Every single person that has a season ticket just passes them on for the rest of time to family members, right? You're either going to grow up and have a season ticket for all your entire life, childhood and adulthood, if you're a kid, or if just the entirety of adulthood. God forbid any family member of yours passes that you sit next to, that will just go to the next generation of your family. And therefore, based on the development of Wrexham, will any more season tickets ever go on sale? At the rate it's going, they will probably want to keep, match tickets. Individual match tickets are more lucrative to clubs. Season tickets are not massively in vogue now. If you go up the pyramid, Premier League, for example, Man City having massive problems with raising season ticket prices and trying to price out, in my opinion, season ticket holders, and that's the opinion of many City fans as well. So that's kind of quite a long-winded way to say that they can use this idea of a closed shop because we want to give other people the ability to land a season ticket, and if they're just going to stay in the same ecosystem forever and ever and ever, that's never going to happen, right? I guess I could also make the argument that, they, like you say, they would say that this is not a Wrexham rule, really. It's just bringing Wrexham in line with what many, many top clubs in the land do. And therefore, if 50,000 at Newcastle or 45,000 at Aston Villa can stomach it, and there's huge demand for those season tickets, it should, in theory, work for Wrexham, right? Now I've waffled about that absolute nonsense. I don't believe any of that. My actual opinion is that it's absolute garbage from the football club. It's anyone with a brain cell or two would be able to see that Welcome to Wrexham has been framed in the prism of the community. I can assure you, because I speak to lots of people internationally, that they're coming to Wrexham not for the team. They are coming to Wrexham to meet Wayne, to meet Scoot, to eat in the Ukrainian cafe, to visit the miners' rescue, to see the surrounding areas, to take tours with people locally. Of course, the team is popular and important. They want to meet Mullin. They want to meet Elliot Lee. But as the team changes and the emphasis becomes less on the characters in the team, because who have been the big characters, for want of a better phrase, this season? Fletcher, Mullin again to a degree, Palmer to a degree. Those are non-factors or relative non-factors. Two of those have gone. One's permanently gone. One is out on loan and may never pull on a Wrexham shirt again. And Ollie Palmer, as much as he's confident, is probably going to be a non-factor, right? So Elliot Lee was second choice, yada, yada, yada. That's beside the point. Wrexham, Welcome to Wrexham is fabulous. And all this week I've seen, this is the best piece of television. This final episode is the best thing I've seen ever. Or all these opinions of what people are saying. And I say all that to say that the community is what sells that program and what makes the club special. And loads of clubs will say, oh, it's the fan base, it's the community. And yet you make a decision whereby, okay, they don't want to set any precedent. They're not playing favourites at all. And they are making a policy and they're sticking to the policy. They know that everything is not going to be popular. To a lesser degree, people no longer going into the Centenary Club. There have been other instances, one quite recently through a friend of ours that he asked not to be shared on the podcast. But again, sharing that would have made the club look incredibly bad. You know what I'm talking about, Rich. But in this instance, for the sake of the negative PR, which you'd imagine every time this affects a fan, will come back up. It will rear its head again because somebody will probably send a message and say, I cannot believe this. I've actually got a testimony from a fan who has to be kept anonymous, but it will affect this fan directly to the point where their mental health is deteriorating at the idea of this rule affecting them in probably the next 12 months. I'm going to read that shortly after you respond to this sort of rant, Rich. But the money you will make off doing this is largely insignificant. With respect, I appreciate I can say it's not my money. I'm not the one pumping in the cash. And they may come back to me and say, well, you want a team that is challenging at the top end of the Premier League and there's all these squeezes along the way. You know what? And maybe people will say I'm lying here. If it's going to take squeezes like this to get to the very top, I'm not really sure how bad. I don't want it that bad. I don't want it that bad that people feel like they're being pushed out of their own club because their parent has died or their partner has passed, and actually, I'm now going to be sat next to a random person, and in fact I don't want to go now, and I'll sell my ticket, and that's people turned away from the football club because of what, 200-300 quid a year. Nah, not for me.
Yeah, I think that is the danger, is that we have this sort of this adaptation to consequentialism, that it's like, oh, we got to the Premier League, that was all worth it. It was like, no, but what did you do on the way? How much did you change as a football club? How far did you steer away from those core principles that you had? And again, as I said in the chat with Pollard there, where one of those core principles when Robin Ryan took the club was about community being at the forefront of absolutely every decision they made, and this isn't that. And again, there seems to almost be a detachment now between the football team you see on the documentary and the football team that operates sort of on a day-to-day basis. There's representation of when Rob and Ryan are there on the ground, and then there's what happens when they're away. And once again, ultimately the headlines will always read, Ryan Reynolds makes huge season ticket change as at Wrexham, fans are irate. Ryan will be oblivious to this, I'm sure. Like, he will not have even, do you know what I mean? These are decisions not being made by those two whatsoever. And that's just my concern is, Wrexham already have changed completely from what they were at the start of the takeover. We, like I said, we were a football club then, we're a business now, we're a brand. And you can tolerate that to an extent, and again, that is the price of success that we all want. You want a season championship. I'm going to be there, hopefully, at Southampton. I'll be wearing my replica shirt. I'll be doing that. I'll be pumping the money into the club. But there will come a point, won't there, where there is this breaking point, and I feel like we have already got to that stage now where we will never, the club will never exist again as it once did, for better and for worse. And you just hope that while we keep on pushing this community aspect, you actually back up those words with the actions as well, which I don't feel is being done in this case.
So you want to raise the price of membership and maybe not even offer, incredible benefits. That's fine. You have to buy a ticket to win the raffle. The raffle this year is going to be very difficult. There's not going to be many seats. We cannot criticise the club for limited tickets available because the temporary cop has gone. They're building a brand new stand. That, for many years, never looked possible. It just sat there derelict without any funds to do so. So you will not catch me, and if you do catch me complaining about lack of ticket availability, tell me off, Rich, or anyone listening, because that is an unfair criticism when you need to have a little patience. You want to raise the price of membership. You want to oversell the membership, far and above what tickets are available. But that is what it is. It's a game in that sense, and fastest finger or whatever will win. I know there's been criticism if they brought in a loyalty scheme, would that be a closed shop? And other things, you want to raise the price of kits, maybe. You want to go on these far-flung tours. There's so many things you could pull people up on, or maybe there's not a season a pre-season friendly at home because the grass is bedding in, and you want to go to a pre-season friendly at home. These are all minor, but if they're important to you, they're important to you. Gripes, right? But I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this statement out, Rich, from a fan who's asked to be kept anonymous. But it made me angry reading it because this is our football club, not ours, but I'm talking our plural football club that this person is talking about. So this person said, me and my dad are local and have been going to games together since I was 6 years old, and I'm now in my 30s. We got season tickets in about 2010. I've suffered really bad health since I was 21, undergoing numerous operations, hospital stays, treatments, which are still ongoing. About 3 seasons ago, we opted into the companion carer season ticket so I could get extra support from the club and DSA with away games. Perfectly plausible at this stage. This season, though, we decided to revert back as we've had trouble getting tickets seated together on the online Ticketmaster, recognising the companion ticket for cup games, and basically it's never been fixed, even with this being reported to the club. And going up again to the Championship and with bigger cup games hopefully on the horizon, we wanted to avoid that disappointment, so reverted back. So we asked the club to revert back to the original full price season tickets, the exact same seats we are in now, the exact same names. We would be paying more, than we had been because the companion was slightly less. They said we paid Dad's season ticket. We paid Dad's season ticket when we went over to a companion, and they won't sell it us back. Basically, they sell that season or whatever they paid it, and they won't sell it back for the inflated price. We've sat together for years. We would never ever jeopardize that, and no way were we told this would be the case. Otherwise, we would never have agreed to this. The companion was only meant to be the short term because I was so unwell. It's the same seats on the ticket, so really they aren't selling us a new seat. I don't understand. I can't attend games on my own due to my mental health and my needs. We will be paying extra, so money isn't the issue here. It's the same seats again, and it's no seat change. I feel like a group of vulnerable people are being targeted. I do qualify for another year of companion ticket, which we will take up, but after that, then what? I appear to have lost Dad's ticket forever. We want our tickets in our seats, which we've had for years. It's brought me so much upset and anxiety. I feel let down by the club, which we have raised so much money for over the years, far beyond pre-takeover. We've done so much for. I'm so worried about losing these tickets. This is all I have. The club with my dad. It gets me through my illnesses. That just, for want of a better phrase, pisses me off, to be honest.
Yeah, but where is the defence there? Where's the argument to not do that? And again, do you know what really pisses me off, Nath? It's these are the rules. You made the bloody rules. Change the rules. That is just that argument is just dead in the water. I'm sorry. Like, you made the rules, so change them. If there's clearly not in the interest of your supporters, that's our opinion anyway. Let us know in the comments below. And once again, thank you very much to everyone who did share their opinions on the matter. I'm sure there'll be even more as well. We've got them on emails and stuff, and we do read all your correspondence. And again, if there are any issues such as this that you would like us to use our platform to get across and hopefully be able to contact the club. And I will say thank you to the club for issuing a statement and for getting back to us and for dealing with it in a professional manner. We do very much appreciate that. Like we said, we just want what's best for the football club. We want what's best for the supporters. And why can't we have success on the pitch and a really, really well-run community club as well? It's not as if you have one or the other. As we said before with the tribes, you can have both. We don't have to choose. So thank you very much for that. Now, Nath, transfers. We had 2 already this summer. We've had 52 under Phil Parkinson and Parkin before them. And we've come up with a very, again, it's word of the week, tribalistic, divisive numbering system. We're going to rank every signing Wrexham have made under Phil Parkinson. It's 4 years, of course, this week we're recording, since he and Steve Parkin arrived at the club. 54 signings in total. We're not including Danny Ward and Ryan Hardy in the list because they've literally just signed. There's not been a match played. But we're going to try and very quickly rank the players in order from... This isn't even... I guess it is from worst to best, but it's just more what they represented. Were they value for money? What impact did they have? Yada, yada. You know it. And hey, it's a list. If you're going to disagree with some of these, myself and Nath disagreed putting the list together. I'm sure even when we go through the list, Nath will be like, hey, I don't remember putting him there. But this is what we're going to go through. So Nath, I think if we start off sort of 54, you won't go every other. I think the sort of first 10 or so on the list from 54 to 44, they're all much of a muchness, aren't they?
Yes. So how do you want me to do it, Rich? You just want me to fire off the names in reverse order from worst and we can slowly build our way up to the best? How many do you want me to rattle off?
Why don't you do all 54 and we'll just have a chat after a few?
Okay, I'm gonna give you then the worst rated player, which I think you and I agreed with, Rich. Unfortunately, he's not going to listen to the podcast, so all is well. But Charlie Trafford, I think, is officially, unanimously, the worst signing of the Phil Parkinson era. I've then got the following 3, or we then have Billy Waters in 51st, Josh Adam in 50th position, Lee Camp in 49th, and then a few more goalkeepers now. Kai Calderbank Park, 48, Rory Watson, 47, Liam Hall, 46, and Scott Butler, 45. That's probably a little bit. I thought Scott Butler, I actually had him a little bit higher because I thought he played well the night that Rich saw a wheelie bin thrown into the air at Altrincham. But Rich, Trafford, Waters, Adam, Camp, Calderbank Park, Watson, Hall, Butler, can't have too many complaints there, surely.
No, and I guess the weird argument there is Billy Waters did more on the pitch than a lot of those, but the wages he came in on and the contract we had and maybe the difficulty of getting rid of him, and he was a very good dressing room figure, wasn't he? But I think when you consider the actual finances of the deal, he's got to be that low for me. Maybe there'll be a disagreement there, but I think that's fair.
Yeah, no, I think, look, as far as we were told, great lad around the place, incredibly popular, but I mean, in terms of goal return, I just remember, I think it might have been Newcastle under 21s in a Papa John's game, played and he just skied one into the tech end, and I just thought this guy's never going to score, and yeah, maybe we're being overly harsh, but for all the players that have actually played and had a chance, he was one of the biggest underperformers, I would say.
Speaking of underperformers, then we'll go to number 44. We were there, Nath. Sean Brisley scored at Barnet. We saw it happen, but a player who... Was he the first signing under Phil Parkinson, Sean Brisley?
Yes, yeah.
I think we posted a video of him scoring from about 40 yards for Port Vale or something, and we were like, this is Beckenbauer reborn. Just didn't really work out, did it? Number 43, we've got Brad Foster. I don't remember Brad Foster that much. You said he played in the game.
He did. The night where Latutula, the lad who'd been at Hull, who'd been at Doncaster, he came, but there was a whole thing that he couldn't sign. They couldn't get international clearance. We ended up signing Brad Foster basically on an emergency loan from, I think it was Averley, maybe, and in like deep non-league. He played one game in the Virtue Trophy and got man of the match, I'm pretty sure. So I think his one and only contribution was a man of the match display.
Did he not be number one, man?
Based on minutes and performance.
His hit rate is incredible.
But that was it.
Okay, number 42, this one paying me. John Daddy Bodvarsson, who has sealed a move this week to a team who have 500 followers on X. Our friend James Kelly sent this one through. I'm glad to see John Daddy on the move again, but I thought he could have done a job at League One level. I was surprised to see him go over to Scandinavia like he did.
Yeah, I mean, it did well at Burn, right? But just the greatest name on this list, but never. I mean, was it at Stockport away? Tried like an overhead kick in the first minute or something? I don't know. It never worked. Doomed to fail from the off.
I would love to know if any of you have Bodvarsson shirts out there, though. I'd love to know who sponsored him last season. 41, we've got Dave Jones, screamer at Solihull on the opening day of the season. Better as a coach than as a player, though, wasn't he? We just didn't see enough of him in that season.
No, he got sent off, didn't he? Did he get sent off against Woking? And that was the end of him. He basically he was like far too slow in the game, got sent off, and was never seen again as a player, I don't think.
I think that was one of those where he sort of called it on his own and was like, yeah, that's me done. I can offer more off the pitch, and he has done. So, in terms of actual addition to the football club, he's brilliant, but as an actual player, his impact is minimal. Number 40, we've got Harry Lennon, infamously maybe, the fastest player at the football club in that first season he had. Ravaged by injury, scored the first goal that Robin Ryan saw in person, did he? Was that a draw against Torquay?
Robin Ryan were at Maiden. We scored at Maidenhead, no? On the night that...
The first home game,
goal at the racecourse. First goal at the racecourse, Harry Lennon scored in front of those two chairmen, yeah.
Yeah, again, a player who's just ravaged by injury, but all accounts a very, great lad as well, and someone who... different way, could have played lots of games for us that season. 39, we've got Luke Bolton. We just haven't seen enough from him in the Wrexham shirt, have we? He looks destined to leave the club this summer. The next two, they've got a lot of chance to move up the list. We've got Seb Revan and Mo Farl, both signed last summer, both showed glimpses of their talent, but we just haven't seen it, have we, Nath?
Nah, just not enough. And I think while some of those above might be more controversial, because you think, well, they haven't had a great deal of time to solidify their case. I don't know. I think Farrell's been probably more unlucky, which is why I put him above Revan. I think Revan's had games, particularly Harrogate in the FA Cup, really annoyed me. I just think I expected a little bit more from a player that had got Young Player of the Season in the Championship team the year prior.
Do you want to lead us through 36 to 30, maybe?
Yeah, so 36, Luke McNicholas. He had that run where he was playing in the Virtue Trophy, and I think there was a good couple of games where he did look very, very solid. Obviously, hasn't had a great deal of opportunity. I think he thought maybe he was destined to work his way up to a number one spot, and then Foster arrives, and then Okonkwo arrives, and it's kind of unravelled a little bit since then. 35, Will Boyle. Not as bad. We said this last week. Not as bad as people make out, but in terms of all the people on the list, probably the clumsiest in terms of red cards and, silly fouls. So got to mark him down there. But, by the end, great head of hair. He has gone to our rivals as well. Not his fault, I know, but, 35, I think, is a fair spot. 34, Jake Hyde. Now, he would have scored an enormous goal at Wembley. Unfortunately, was offside in that FA Trophy final against Bromley, which saw Robin Ryan stupidly mocked by many individuals on Twitter for celebrating, like we all did in the away end or in the Wrexham end. Jake Hyde, though, I get on well with him. He was at TST. I think he was one that just really struggled with injury and never was able to get over it to hit the ground running. But yeah, clearly made a solid enough contribution in that first season. 33, Callum Burton. This one you can jump in on, Rich, because Callum Burton, I mean, 33 seems quite low, really, given that whenever he was called upon, he was very dependable.
Yeah, I think I actually, now that I'm looking at the list, I think the person who's above him should not be above him or Jake Hyde, but hey, we've made the list now. Yeah, as we said earlier in the podcast, Callum Burton's a player who's just had circumstance against him, really, performed well enough when possible, but as we said earlier, he's maybe just kind of had one season at Wrexham, or if not, would have become the third choice, which seems a little underwhelming for the calibre of keeper he was. Again, that's not a criticism of him because it was down to injury, but just not quite worked out. 32 must have been a typo. Not sure why I put him so high. Bryce Hosanna.
You know what my memory of
Marcelo Bielsa, wasn't he?
Yeah, you know what my memory of Bryce Hosanna is that Mullin misses a penalty away at Notts County. Bryce runs in to get the rebound and then is hacked down in what is more of a penalty than the actual penalty. And obviously, what referee is going to give a penalty from the from the rebound of a missed penalty? It's not going to happen. So
was
that is
mistaken identity red card as well.
That was the one, yeah, mistaken identity red card. And I also remember him scoring or assisting early on in the season, the first game of the season one year when Jordan Davis scored. I'm trying to think what game that would have been now. Maybe the MK Dons game. I think he either scored or got an assist in that game. So started the League Two season. That obviously wasn't our finest, but I actually think there was a player there in Bryce Hosanna. I think in terms of pure fundamentals, and maybe that's why I'm being a little bit generous there in 32. Obviously had more minutes than someone like Callum Burton, and there were flashes, but again, it's a familiar tale of woe. I just think injury, and once you drop out of a team, as maybe we'll get to George Evans a bit higher up, it's very, very hard to get back in.
Yeah, and again, it's 4 years worth of commitments here, and you almost forget those first two campaigns to an extent of the players who were fundamental then, just because greater names came and replaced them. It doesn't mean, as we get to now, 31 and 30, Callum McFadzean at 31 and Jordan Tunnicliffe at 30. Callum McFadzean played a lot more games for Wrexham than lots of people will realise, and was very important in a lot of them as well. And Jordan Tunnicliffe, we had that ridiculous record where, was it every game we started, we won, and that carried on for about a year, didn't it?
Yeah, the issue is that the only thing I can think of every time Jordan Tunnicliffe's name comes up is the botched contract that ended in a sort of like mutual mediation, or like a mediation, right? That's unfair on him, really. Jordan Tunnicliffe, he was a solid defender.
Daily Mail who.
Yes, yeah. It was almost like I'm just bigging up my own story just to inflate my own ego. No, I think Jordan Tunnicliffe is a solid defender, just one of those that I think has a ceiling as a player. And I feel like the rate we rose up the leagues is quite harsh, actually, to kind of, kill a player for just being good enough for that level, right? Like, not everyone you sign in the National League or League Two is going to be able to play in the Championship. That's normal. So for the level we had him at, Jordan Tunnicliffe, very, very solid. And Callum McFadzean, I watched him put in a man of the match display against Boreham Wood in the FA Trophy, en route to, pretty sure that was en route to the Bromley final. He got 2 assists that day. And yeah, I mean, again, my standout memory is at Barnet. Did he get sent off at Barnet, or there was the whole fiasco when Parky and their goalkeeper started on each other? Big thing.
Yes, there was. And there's an infamous story in the Manchester Reds where that goalkeeper's phone number might have got passed around. 29, Liam McAlinden. Again, a very useful utility player, someone who played a lot more than you would have kind of recollected. It's that tackle, isn't it, for him?
Yeah, I mean, the tackle that
very innuendo-ridden podcast.
The tackle from Liam McAlinden, where it looks like, I think it's Paddy Madden is going to be through on goal.
Yeah.
Then the tackle goes to Jordan Davis, who feeds it to Paul Mullin, and I'll be honest, Rich, that is still one of my favourite goals since the takeover in terms of the technique, the moment. Paul Mullin chipping Ben Hinchcliffe, I think it is, in goal. Wrexham are through to a Wembley final. Pure jubilation. I was watching it with you in kind of the posh seats that day. Everything about that entire sequence, put Titanic music behind it, I love it even more. Great. And also, we should say that Liam McAlinden missing a penalty in the playoffs and then flying the next day to Vegas with Wrexham was just top class boiling of PISS. So, yes, I'm very happy with Liam McAlinden in the top 30.
Yeah, we'll get. I mean, every other player is kind of more recent from here on in. Then Jay Rodriguez, number 28. I know that will annoy a few supporters, but hey, came in, did a job. I think he was underrated. Very chastised last season for not being what lots of people wanted him to be and what maybe they expected of Jay Rodriguez. But he came in, he got us over the line to the Championship, and I think he's one who next season might look like a better signing than he did right now, because the opinion is still very much out on him. And tell you what, Nathan, I'm a bit sick of talking about Jay Rodriguez because I just feel it causes, again, that sort of tribalism. I feel we've just not seen enough, but he does a lot of work off the ball. He does a lot of work. 27, Ryan Longman. Again, maybe feels he should be higher up on the list, maybe, now that we look about it. I think he will rise in the years to come. Should be starting for us in the Championship, I think. What an addition he was. Interesting as well, Nath, to think what might have been if he had signed last summer. We might not have had Ryan Barnett having the season he just had either.
Yeah, I'm a massive Ryan Barnett fan. I would say quickly that Richard Sutcliffe, I'm sure he would have Jay Rodriguez as number 1 on this list, but it's not Sutty's list, it is our list. I'm going to rattle off a few quick ones, Rich, and give some opinions on those. 26, Sam Dolby. 25, Dan Scarr. 24, Jack Marriott. From my side, Dolby scored some massive goals in that National League season. Aldershot is huge. Every point counted there. And so anyone that was able to get us out of that meat grinder of a league, I wanted to inflate a little bit. Dan Scarr had to be very patient, a model pro behind the scenes. But what I will say is when he was called upon, when it was real crunch time in League One, he was one of our standout players. I'm thinking of Blackpool. I'm thinking of Charlton. Did he play as well? There was a game before Blackpool. I can't remember. Wigan, was it? There were a few games where Dan Scarr. Yeah. Bristol. There were a few games where Dan Scarr was, I thought, near impeccable. Blackpool away, as a case in point, was a perfect Dan Scarr performance. And Jack Marriott was flying at the start of the season. Without his goals, who knows where our points tally would have been before he sadly got injured. So Dolby 26. 25 Scarr, 24 Jack Marriott, closing in rapidly on the top 20.
Yeah, I feel like when you get to this stage, you can be even more succinct because the players speak for themselves. 23, gorgeous George Evans. Just look at his face. He was brilliant for sort of a season and a half. Really, really good. Jacob Mendy, 22. I think maybe the best story of any Wrexham player, and delivering like he did. Was ready for that step up after cutting his teeth in the National League. Of really the type of player I felt we weren't buying enough of. And great to see. Obviously, the goal against Notts County. That's what he'll be probably best remembered for. But just a great professional, someone who has risen remarkably. He could be a championship player next season. He might not get that opportunity, but to have even reached League One, hats off to him. Number 21, it's Super Ben Foster in goal. Short but sweet loan spell. Best game was probably against Barnet in the 0-0. Halifax was horrendous. Who cares? That penalty save, Wrexham legend. I will not hear a bad word said about him. Like, do you know what I mean? Incredible. What a contribution for him. 20, Anthony Ford. Again, just an absolute stalwart of that promotion team. Someone who was so steady, impeccable delivery into the box. And we also saw him perform at League Two level as well, didn't we, Nath? And was really good.
Yeah, and I actually bumped Anthony Ford up just when I was doing the rankings for a couple of things. One, he was deregistered and yet was there training every day. And again, that's why those kind of people, I think people don't realise the value they have to a manager. And that's why I was really pleased when Anthony Ford got his reception, and we'll always have that goal against Yeovil. That was such an important night for us in that National League promotion race. I know it's dreadful for them; they ended up going down. But when we look back, Wrexham's history is going to be pockmarked with really important goals, and for us, goals that we will always remember. And we'll always have that night against Yeovil for Anthony Ford. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 5 then now. So we're inside the top 20, right? So let's get us to 15. Number 19, Matty James, came in alongside John Daddy Badvarson. I was very critical of him for a long time, and then when it came to the crunch experience, the cream rose to the top, and Matty James was vitally important. Number 18, Mark Howard, copped a lot of flack over the years, but was always there when we needed him, and was actually much more dependable than people want to give him credit for. Number 17, Aaron Hayden, the best header of the ball we had for years, was just phenomenal, but didn't seem to trust his body by the end. And actually, I'm quite sad that he left seemingly under a bit of a cloud. He didn't seem to leave in the best sort of mindset. He seemed to leave pretty downbeat and flat, and that's not how you want to see a player that was so important to us go out. Number 16, Lewis Brunt. That's a player I think could go up and up and up. I think I saw a note today that a year ago today we signed Lewis Brunt. I was speaking to someone who works closely with him recently, and he is just loving it at Wrexham, as you would expect. And I think he will be a mainstay in the team in the Championship. And number 15, again, another player that very much could bump his way up. Mr. Kung Fu goal himself, Mr. Sam Smith, who... I'm choked up now. I'm choked up thinking of Sam Smith's goals. Without his contribution, we just would not have got over the line, would we, by the end? Whether it was Northampton, whether it was Charlton. And it came in as Reading's top scorer and delivered bucket loads of goals for us. So there we are. Matty James, Mark Howard, Aaron Hayden, Lewis Brunt, Sam Smith. We are now into the top 15.
Top 15. We'll get you to number 14, George Dobson. Gives us all, doesn't he? I think towards the end of last season, we saw what he can do as a ball playing midfielder as well. Just so much energy, player that the fans love. I do think sort of first 3-4 months of the season, he was our player of the season. He was impeccable every single game. He gave you a bit of that Luke Young replacement that you wanted to see with his passion in the middle of the park. 13, Tom O'Connor, another who's risen through the ranks. What a sign he's been. Centre back, centre defensive mid, free kicks and all. What a player. I think of Sheffield United at home with him. That goal off the corner and just the jubilance in front of the tech end. What a player he's been. 12, another Parky favourite, James Jones. Not the most glamorous, not the player who fans will maybe remember for too long in the years ahead, but they should. He was the unsung hero of that promotion team, of 2 promotion teams really. Just so reliable with what he did. So much work rate and application. And another one of those who, whether he was playing on the bench or not even the matchday squad, just gave his all for the club, and so much respect for him to doing that. Number 11, the superstar from Solihull. He's delivered when it's mattered. He's given us that extra impetus on the wings, Nath. Tailed off a bit in the promotion season from League One. It will be interesting to see how he gets on going forward, but what a pickup he's been. And again, what I loved about him was we were signing a player who was ready for that next step up from non-league. When people say that Wrexham have gone and spent loads on all these former Premier League players, It's people like Mendy, it's people like Barnett, actually, who were already really good in National League, who wanted to be part of that journey and who have gone to a level we didn't know they had.
I lobbied in our WhatsApp chat for Ryan Barnett to be a top 10 pick because I do feel maybe a slight bias towards those that have gone all the way, sort of thing. And I do think, being top of the assist charts, I know you can pick holes in some of those. 3 of those are in one game, and yada yada yada. I think Ryan Barnett's been a fabulous signing, but also you can be 11th in this list and be a brilliant signing. Like the 10 above him are very, very good. And when you look at it, you can make a very strong argument of why they are there. So here we go then. Rich, let's do alternates now, and we'll give our reason why we think they are there, right? So number 10, Owen O'Connell.
Oh, it's my reason. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Just dead air there. You give your reason why you think Owen O'Connell, and then we'll flip vice versa. Why do you think Owen O'Connell should be a top 10 pick?
He's for me maybe the most underrated player in the Wrexham squad. I think I said this last year when I did my 4-4-2 season preview. Any position you need him in across the defence, he'll play there. Again, I'm thinking Notts County. I'm thinking that little rugby pass over the top, the balls into the box. So good with his delivery, so good on the ball. Has maybe been caught out a few times since we've gone up the divisions. I know last season was difficult for him at times, but when he's fit, he plays. And that's been the case ever since he joined the club. One of those who we were excited when he arrived, but I don't think anyone expected him to be just as integral as he's been. So for me, Owen O'Connell has to be a top 10 pick. Number 9, new addition, Ollie Rathbone.
Yeah, you just don't get out of League One without Ollie Rathbone. And while I was eager to reward those that have won 3 promotions, every promotion becomes increasingly more difficult, right? And you look, anyone who wins Player of the Year, my beloved Luke Young won that multiple times. Ollie Rathbone, we thought it would have been Max. It was Ollie Rathbone. In the end, yes, he deserved it, and I think it would be remiss if he wasn't a top 10 pick here. Number 8, another midfielder, Andy Cannon.
Andy Cannon. We missed him a lot last season, but we managed to get over the line. What was it, 3 promotions in a row? Was it 4 promotions in a row?
4.
4 in a row, 3 with Wrexham, 1 with Stockport. What a pickup he was. We saw in that FA Trophy semi-final, it was all Stockport until he got taken off. And then we go and win the game. Then we sign him, and then we become an absolutely dominating force. Such an intelligent football player. One of the few midfielders who can marry the defensive duties and the passing with that attacking input. We saw the goal at Blackburn. We saw what he's capable of. I really hope he gets a chance in the Championship next season once he's recovered from injury. Number 7. It's our number 7. It's Macca. It's James McLean.
I think that James McLean has completely shifted the dressing room in the sense that I felt like when we came into the Football League, we were a little bit of a soft touch. I'm thinking of that game against MK Dons. I'm thinking of that game against Swindon, where we were too easy to bully. And I think that was you could never really criticise Wrexham for that. Definitely towards the back end of that League Two season and in League One. And he's just a culture setter. You know what I mean? Whether you like him or don't like him, people think I've got this massive agenda against James McLean, or people on email certainly do. He has established standards and a winning mentality that I know is bred through the manager and everything, but he's been at the very top. He still trains harder than anyone, is the fittest player in the squad. You can't have a top 10 without James McLean in it. And by that logic, another player that's been to the very top, number 6, I had a bit higher, but you talked me down. Number 6, Stephen Fletcher.
Fletch. I mean, it could have been Armstrong. Instead, it was Fletcher. Came in. We weren't maybe too sure of what impact he could still make at that level. Another one who was just a model professional. Fell in love with the game again. Fell in love with Wrexham, and we fell in love with him. Gave us all. If you needed a goal, you went and got Fletch. Scored so many important goals. Got that hat-trick, of course, as well against Barrow. What a player. What a signing. And he'll be hugely missed. And again, it's the context of him coming in as a free agent after the transfer deadline's closed, and arguably your most important signing came in after the window closed. Like, that is crazy. What a play it was. What a contribution he made to Wrexham. Yes, 3 years of him would have been nice. 2 years was enough, though. Back-to-back promotion winner. What a guy. Number 5, then. We're into the top 5. I think we agreed on all of these, didn't we, Nate? Like you said, you maybe would have Fletcher a bit higher, but once we took a step back, number 5, Ben Tozer, recently retired.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The long throw gave us a weapon that very few other teams had. As a captain, I didn't agree with the handling of how that came about, the dual captaincy thing. If you've been listening for a long time, you will know all about that. Luke Young being the sort of first team captain and Ben Tozer being the club captain. I think that was just trying to get Ben Tozer the armband. But you have to say that just from contribution on the pitch and when he fell out of favour and was off it, I always think of that Colchester game where he was coaching Max on the sideline and Max pops up and gets the winner. I didn't think that was an accident or a fluke. The consummate pro who was so valuable to us in what he gave us, and he is one of those, like many on this list, that if they ever appear again in a pub in Wrexham, they should never have to buy a pint for what they did in helping us climb the league. So yeah, there are 4 players left. I want you to quickly think. You might have the same ones as us, but I want you to quickly think and jot down out of these. There's Ollie Palmer, Elliot Lee, Paul Mullin, and Arthur Okonkwo. Those are the top 4. It's not a spoiler, I'm sure, but those are the 4. What order? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds, and then Rich, maybe you should just rattle through the 4 in reverse order, and we'll kind of justify why they are where they are.
Yeah, so I hope you've made your mind up. This was tough because, again, there's nuance to where they can all go. But this is our top 4. In 4th, we have, just missing out on the podium place, I'm sure he'll be there in a few years' time, it's Arthur Okonkwo, safe hands himself. Top 3 then. 3rd, Ollie Palmer. Number 2, Elliot Lee, Wrexham's best signing. It's Paul Mullin. We don't have Paul Mullin anymore. He's joined Wigan on loan, but he's just the guy, isn't he? Paul Mullin is the face of what we've just achieved. And yeah, that top 4, Nath, Mullin was always going to be number 1, wasn't he? I feel like Okonkwo, just because he joined later in the project, was going to be 4th. And then between Lee and Palmer, I guess Lee's had a bigger impact in the matches himself, but Ollie Palmer as well. What a bloody signing he was. It did nothing clicked till he joined. You've got to remember that.
I actually think that if people make their own 1 to 52, I think number 2 could be highly disputed. In terms of, I think, look, we went up in League One and our top scorer was Elliot Lee. So even though he took that step back, he was still effective. Evidently, the stats show that. I just think Elliot Lee, what he produced in that National League season, the goal, the style, the panache, the flair, he's been one of my favourite players to watch. Paul Mullin's been amazing and is undisputed number 1. Fletch, there's nobody better. I love him. There are others. The save from Ben Foster, the tireless running of James Jones, I think is underappreciated. Aaron Hayden, I just love. I remember a game at Woking, he was scoring headers at one end and cannoning them away at defensive set pieces at the other. So many great players, but Elliot Lee, just in terms of getting me off my seat, enjoying watching a player at his peak, I really had to try and twist your arm to reward him for that spot, because he's just been phenomenal.
I just always think of Chesterfield at home on that Tuesday night where it was a massive game. They just come back into sort of that title race, and obviously we get the hand of Rob that night, we get Leighton's wonder save, but Elliot Lee scores early on with an absolute humdinger in front of the tech end. And again, it's one of those moments where you start to believe. And yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Palmer, he's still now so underrated, and it just made it all work. He made it all work, but you still needed that bit of midfield magic in that National League season, didn't you, to see out Notts County? And we had the strike force, but we also had the goals from midfield. And just all of them. I just love all of them. That top 10 was joyous to put together. It's so hard, like I said, to leave some people out of that. But I guess the only person who'd be really annoyed is Stephen Fletcher, because there's nobody better other than the 5 players we named.
Yes,
I suppose
yeah, quite.
we've not even mentioned Paul Mullen there. Do we need to even say why he's number one? I think everyone knows. We probably covered it in the last couple of weeks, didn't we? Even more so, because he just speaks for himself. The goals, everything, what he did off the pitch,
Yeah.
the cultural figure he is. Really, he is a Hollywood star, but he's also just a lad from Liverland who is living his best life.
Rich, I also think the guards are going to start knocking on my door any minute, and we've been on for over an hour. So let us know your 1 to 52 if you've got the time and energy to put your own list together. Just slate our list if you need to. I will be on the move. I will be in Australia this time next week. No idea yet how we're going to record these, if I'm going to be recording them at like 2 in the morning, whatever it is. But I'm very much looking forward to it. Thanks again for your support. We are so close now to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if that happens, me and Rich will have to find a way to mark it somehow, some way. But yeah, thanks so much for the support, and support from you guys. It sounds a bit cheesy there. Allows us to sponsor a player shirt. Mo Farrell last season, for example, or able to go on these trips and deliver more content. And bit by bit, we'll probably annoy the club as we have done today. I am very sure, but we wouldn't have it any other way. So, Rich, yeah, appreciate you putting up with me and my inconsistent Wi-Fi's all around the world.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much to you and the watchers on YouTube for putting up with me. Trying to style my hair throughout the podcast. I'm never going to have a shower and condition just before I come on air to record, but I had just been for a run,
Rich,
so I think it was the best.
Rich, we got told off last week in the YouTube comments for touching our noses too much when we were trying to say something. So apparently it made it look like we were lying.
Oh, okay. You're a really good friend, Nate. Thank you very much to all of you who are watching on YouTube. As Nave said, he's only allowed to move back to Manchester once we've got 5,000 subscribers. So please do hit that button if you're watching this video. Thank you very much once again to Red 10 People Development for your continued support of the podcast, and to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic for the music that stings. Thank you wherever you are in the world, and we will see you again next time.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.